Star Wars in Concert makes its return to the States. A little something to hold you over till Celebration 5. And plenty of collectible announcements. It's March 11th, and you'll hear about those stories and more this week in Star Wars. This Week in Star Wars is your source for new and noteworthy developments in the world of Star Wars. I'm your host, Matt Fox. And now this week's lead story. Currently in the midst of a European tour, the Star Wars in Concert presentation will be coming back to the States in May. The multimedia extravaganza, which is hosted by C-3PO himself, Anthony Daniels, and his gold suit, will kick off the second leg of the United States portion of the tour on May 13th in Estero, Florida. I have no idea where that is. The tour will then continue through better-known towns throughout the Deep South and Far West, including Memphis, San Antonio, Austin, Las Vegas, and San Diego. Tickets to these shows will go on sale Saturday, March 13th. Additional dates are expected to be announced in the near future. Of note, one of the new locations announced in this leg of the tour is Orlando, Florida, home of Celebration 5 in August of this year, and raises questions about the possibility of the concert coming back for that convention. Precise information on dates, venues, and ticket availability is available at StarWarsInConcert.com. In other news, StarWars.com announced that Lucasfilm will have a presence at the WonderCon convention in San Francisco in April. Scheduled Star Wars activities include a fan film festival, as well as an Inside Star Wars The Clone Wars panel featuring director Dave Filoni and Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo. WonderCon bills itself as Northern California's largest comics and pulp culture convention and will be held at the Moscone Center in San Francisco on April 2nd through the 4th. Return of the Jedi is now available on RiffTrax.com. RiffTrax, for those of you who are unaware, is a series of movie lampoons done by the cast and creators of Mystery Science Theater 3000, the cult movie lampooning show which ran on Comedy Channel and the Sci-Fi Channel in the 90s and early aughts. The release of Return of the Jedi means that all 6 movies from the original and prequel trilogies are now available, as well as the 1978 Star Wars Christmas special, which really doesn't need a lampooning track. A direct link to the Star Wars parodies on RiffTrax is available on the thisweekinstarwars.com website. This week's collecting news. Since Hasbro has announced that the comic pack line will be phased out over the course of the coming year, there has been much speculation as to where the remaining unreleased packs will appear. The mystery is solved for at least one of those packs. It was announced this week that the pack featuring Glur Nep and Plur Ilo, yeah, I don't know them either, but they appear to be pilots based on the fact that they're in orange jumpsuits. Well, that pack will be available at Entertainment Earth and at other online retailers. This pack, which had been rumored to be destined to become a Walmart exclusive, was dropped by the Big Blue retailer at the last minute and picked up by these online retailers. If you're an EU fan, a comic fan, an X-Wing pilot fan, or a completionist, you'll want to click on the link on thisweekinstarwars.com to pick this set up as soon as possible. Toys R Us's flyer for the week beginning March 14th indicates that they're going to be having a Lego promotion. If you buy $20 worth of Star Wars Legos at a Toys R Us location, they're going to give you a free Silver Stormtrooper minifigure. Details are available at the Toys R Us website. No word on how many pieces will be available per store. Did you mail away for the Hasbro Qui-Gon Jinn and Opie 10th Anniversary Phantom Menace Beast Pack? Did you get it yet? Well, if not, you may actually soon receive a postcard from Hasbro explaining that demand has far exceeded expectations for this set. Well, fear not, your order has not been canceled, but merely delayed. You can begin checking your mailboxes again with Little Orphan Annie's secret decoder ring-like excitement after May 10th, at which point, according to Hasbro, more sets will be available. Last bit of collecting news this week. Sideshow Collectibles has announced that it has joined the worldwide conspiracy to paint all Stormtroopers and Clone Troopers black and silver. Whether you call him a black hole Stormtrooper or a Shadow Trooper or merely a crazed member of Oakland Raider Nation, this fan-favorite early EU creation will be available in 1/6 scale from Sideshow sometime in the near future, according to their recent Q&A. Also available from Sideshow, as of today, the 11th, is the Aura Singh Premium Format figure. As usual, there is an exclusive version, in this case including extra mini lightsabers, which will be available no doubt for a limited period of time. A link to Sideshow is available on the thisweekinstarwars.com website. This week's publishing update. The third installment in DK Publishing's series on the Clone Wars animated series was announced on StarWars.com this week. Star Wars, The Clone Wars, New Battlefronts, The Visual Guide will be available in August. This volume promises to provide details and annotations and illustrations of the new characters, events, and locales featured in Season 2 of The Clone Wars.
This book is devastating.
Backlash, the fourth volume in the Star Wars Fate of the Jedi series, was published on March 9th, 7 months after the publication of Volume 3. Featuring a sharp yellow cover and a picture of who I suspect must be Ben Skywalker, Fate of the Jedi Backlash is written by longtime Star Wars author Aaron Alston. If you don't know who Ben Skywalker is, you're probably not interested in this book, but if you do, or if you are interested anyway, it is available at all brick-and-mortar and online book resellers. And lastly this week, if you think you've seen all the still images and backstage photography from the original trilogy, you may want to check out TotalFilm.com. That site made available a gallery of 30 stills dating from the late 70s and early 80s, many of which, if not previously unpublished, are at least very rare and interesting to take a look at. Film gallery is available on the This Week in Star Wars homepage. Topps has a new card series coming out in May, celebrating the 30th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back 3DI set consists of 48 cards and will include promo cards, autograph cards, and sketch cards. A follow-up to the Star Wars 3DI and Phantom Menace 3DI series from the late 90s, this set has long been promised and long awaited and probably thought by many to be long forgotten. But that is clearly no longer the case. It is available for pre-order from trading card wholesalers and will no doubt be available in most retailers in a couple months. A link to the Topps promotional page is available on the thisweekinstarwars.com website. This week's last bit of news is a few weeks old, but since it combines two of my favorite things, I'm going to give it to you anyway. Apparently, director Robert Zemeckis is remaking the Beatles' animated 1968 film Yellow Submarine, and now, apparently, Darth Maul is starring in it. Not the physical Darth Maul, Ray Park, but rather the vocal Darth Maul, Peter Serafinowicz. Serafinowicz, who is apparently better known in Britain as a comedian rather than the voice of Darth Maul, will be playing the role of Paul McCartney. No word on a release date for the project, and no word yet as to whether or not Paul McCartney will utter the line, "At last we will reveal ourselves to the Blue Meanies."
You will find that it is you who are mistaken about a great many things.
And regrettably, we have a new segment on This Week in Star Wars this week, a correction segment. In the previous episode, I noted that Hardware Wars, the 1970s spoof of Star Wars, was available for the first time on DVD now. Astute This Week in Star Wars listener fan Rick points out, however, that Hardware Wars has in fact been available on DVD previously.
I'm glad you're here to tell us these things.
A rudimentary search of the internet reveals that that is in fact the case, and I apologize for any confusion that my story may have created. When I started this podcast last year, I promised to bring you succinct, newsy episodes with as little fluff and extraneous material as possible. Then, in my last episode, I promised to bring you the exact opposite of that. A talky episode with observations rather than news about the 2010 Toy Fair. Well, that episode, which is a discussion with my friend and longtime Star Wars collector, Steve Booty McLean, is now complete. We're going to call this occasional series of unscheduled and unscripted discussions the Conversation Pit. So in this premiere episode, we dissect Toy Fair 2010 and most of the Hasbro offer. You'll also hear us veer into other unrelated areas such as collecting now versus collecting in the 70s and collecting in the future. So, if you haven't had enough of people talking about the new AT-AT and you've got a half an hour or so to kill, then I hope you'll download this first episode of The Conversation Pit. It's available on our website and in the iTunes feed. And that was This Week in Star Wars. Join us again next week for more news, notes, and developments from the galaxy far, far away. Visit www.thisweekinstarwars.com or, for our lazier listeners, www.twisw.com, where you can find links and more details about the stories mentioned on today's show. If you have questions, tips, story suggestions, or comments about the show, do not hesitate to contact us at matt@thisweekinstarwars.com. You've been listening to This Week in Star Wars. We prowl the web so you don't have to.
This Week in Star Wars is not affiliated with Lucasfilm, its subsidiaries, or any other entity mentioned in this podcast. Star Wars, its characters, and creations are the property of Lucasfilm. All other trademarks are property of their respective trademark owners. This Week in Star Wars is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only. This podcast is copyright 2010 This Week in Star Wars. Invaluable technical assistance provided by WebStorm Interactive. News, comments, and questions can be directed to host at thisweekinstarwars.com. More information, links to stories presented, past episodes, and additional contact information are available at www.thisweekinstarwars.com.
Life of